Hello everyone, we're the From Above team. Welcome behind the front line.
The story of From Above is inspired by a true event, the Christmas truce in 1914. That day, soldiers of both sides decided to stop shooting and meet each other in the no man's land between the trenches. We wanted to pay tribute to that poetic and beautiful moment in the middle of a nightmare.
To portray each of our three characters' mindsets in those difficult times, we used shape language to make them unique and appealing. To echo the damaged environment, we modified the proportions of their facial design.
In addition to historically based uniforms, we sculpted and textured sharp features, and we were not light-handed when adding mud and dirt. This gave the soldiers a battle-worn, afflicted appearance after 2 years of conflict.
Once the AD was set, figuring out a workflow to translate it into 3D was tricky. Very little information can be found on how to achieve a 2D-looking CG movie. So we analyzed references, such as Legends of Runeterra, trying to figure out a way to achieve our own style. We came up with an idea to treat our renders as illustrations by splitting them into multiple layers and using them in compositing to fully create our beauty.
This compositing-based workflow gave us complete control over the character's look. Each aspect was editable, especially colors and lighting sharpness, which were crucial to establishing the different moods and artistic intentions. We designed this workflow to minimize render time as well.
To emphasize contrast, we took a step away from our 2D process for a more 3D approach to assets and environment. The idea was to bring a feeling of realism and authenticity in a time-efficient manner. My main challenge was to build an original Santa sleigh. We wanted it to look fantastical and futuristic for its time, so we merged all kinds of vehicles and machinery. On Maya, I kept a uniform topology since later, we sculpted details in ZBrush and brought back a bit of stylization. I kept this workflow for most of the other assets, which I mainly based on references that I gathered in person when I visited Verdun.
For the texturing of these assets, I wanted to give to the whole frame a stylized appearance that struck a balance between full realism and the character's painterly look. Some of our maps were painted in a traditional PBR way, but many others were masks, later used in look dev. The absence of specular in the shadows allowed me to preserve the brush strokes of the texturing. This allowed believable interaction between the assets and their environments, which was crucial for reflective materials, especially metal.
We kept the same approach for the environment. For the modeling and set dressing, we tried to stick to real historical references and fit them into our style. In Houdini, I created an HDA to ease our work on both sets. This allowed us to turn on and off several assets to optimize the scenes and also control the scattering.
Because much of our set is forest, we needed a large variety of trees, so I developed my own tree generator based on our specific needs. All aspects of this tool were designed to be fully procedural, fast, and easy to use. I started by building a setup based on the trunk geometries. Then, I added an option to modify all aspects of the leaves to emphasize the stylization. After that, I used the top network and PDG to automatically generate assets based on our tree design. To speed up the production process, I developed Python tools like isolate selection for the asset look dev in Houdini. Finally, I created a backup file script that enabled a procedural workflow between the different types of software.
For the animation, having three characters with clearly different origins led us to a narrative choice. Each character only speaks his own language and cannot understand the others.
The idea was to have hardly any dialogue to help maintain the tension and quiet mood. We got rid of the subtitles to put the viewer in the same position as the characters. They can only rely on body language.
In addition to our hand-animated cameras, we did some real camera movements and idles that we tracked and added as layers.
This way, we had full control over the look of our shots, as well as the level of detail and realism we wanted.
For the rigging, we decided to use a common base mesh for all three characters. A common mesh design helped us transfer skeletons and deformations between multiple bodies and faces. I also used auto rigs for faces to speed up my workflow.
I completed Artfx work with the vellum simulation on the bottom jacket of all 3 characters. FX was also part of creating harsh conditions like smoke and snow.
The final effects was the climax of the film, the last sparks of Santa's magic. For that, we chose a giant snowflake shape as a portal. I created a procedural geometry for the base, which I used to define the curved path on it. I added poetry with multiple particle layers, trails, and point lights for a memorable ending.
We are glad that you shared that truth with us. We hope it was a peaceful moment. But it's now time to carry on. We bid you farewell.